Welcome to the AirCon Vault. Here, you can find the recordings of the live streams from AirWiggle's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors, as sound effects, Aftertouch Audio, Boom Library, Fmod, Game Audio Learning, Game SoundCon, Kilohertz, Rev Rooms, Soundcuts, Strata from Audio Kinetic, and AirWiggle, the online home for audio people. We hope you enjoy the video.
Okay, so hi, my name is Megan Frazier. I was the sound designer behind the Colony Sim game Mind Over Magic at Sparky Pants. Currently, I'm freelancing on my own, working towards my goal to live and work in Sweden. So, spoiler alert, this is not a postmortem. I am still in process. A few of my friends reached out after seeing the title and were like, "Oh my god, you got a job in Sweden!" And I was like, that's a little awkward, but. Anyway, like I do feel that the process of the thing, the journey of the thing is the most important. So, but yeah, my background. So my background's a little weird. I kind of had a wild journey into this industry. I was an international business major in college, and my first job out of college was a recruiter. I went to work inside sales for the Microsoft account at the Wesco Distribution, which is anything you need to build buildings, Seattle branch. And I was part of a $1 million business relationship over the course of about a year. I bring this up because a lot of those like threads in my history have really informed my networking over the years, and it's dovetailed really nicely into remote networking, which can be challenging in different ways than in person. Remote networking. So we're talking about fostering connection with another person who we aren't able to meet in person with all that visual body language, opportunities for nuance, visual feedback. And theoretically, we're doing it in a language that isn't native for at least one of the people a lot of times. So there are a lot of platforms that you can do networking overseas. My most common around here, but they're going to vary based on where you're going. I try to keep up as much as I can with Swedish news over time. I just kind of felt that you can kind of get a sense for the culture through current events, and even talk to people about how those current effects are affecting them locally. It gives you something to talk about that's not related to, can you hire me, right? For example, there was a riot in Malmo in 2020, and I asked some of my Swedish contacts, how is local sentiment? Is this also a phenomenon that you're kind of experiencing in Stockholm? Like that kind of thing. But yeah, it's tough to foster connection through culture and distance, and again, mostly through text and video call. But guys, that's the heart of it. It's about connection. It's about two people resonating at the same frequency. And reaching out to people that you don't know can be quite scary. We call that cold connection. So in sales, there are generally two types of salespeople. You have outside and you have inside sales. Outside salespeople, I call them hunters, are primarily people who are bringing in new clients that the company does not have a relationship with. And, theoretically, you're closing the first deal and establishing the business relationship for the first time. They are working cold leads with people whom they do not know. Inside sales, or I call them farmers, are the people who are working sales leads from within existing client relationship. They are working warm leads where maybe the client hasn't heard from them in a while. Maybe they are looking to expand the sales relationship and have a larger sales relationship within the current one, right? The reason why I include friends on this PowerPoint is that making games is just fundamentally different from selling electrical conduit. I've made real friends in this industry, and when I'm checking in with them, my work friends, I'm just sort of sharing my life with them. I'm like, sharing, they're sharing their life with me. And like I'm gonna let them know I'm looking, but it's not a sales pitch, I guess, if that makes sense. Um, but so I've done a fair bit of mentoring about like how to network overseas and how to like network from someone who's far away from you. And I think that it was best suited to like there's two questions you need to ask yourself when doing those kinds of endeavors. And one is, how do I be genuine, and how do I be consistent, right? So how do I be genuine? I could talk for hours on how to not be genuine. It's really not that hard. But I remember that there was one story that I felt was the right one. So I had actually not one but two bosses at two separate firms. People didn't weren't related in any way whatsoever, and they both told this terrible joke on the sales floor of something like fake it until you can be genuine, because if you can fake genuinity, then you've really succeeded. Well, I am so glad that I left that kind of job. But looking back on it now, it is just hilarious to me how they sucked so bad in this one dimension, being genuine. And if they had other decent skills like dedication, charisma, all that stuff, they would have been incredible salespeople if they just hadn't if they had just been genuine people, right? So my advice is, don't put any work into getting better at faking genuinity. You gotta be you. You gotta find your place, and your other skills will develop and support you underneath that, right? So yeah. When I was writing this, I just had the dickens of a time trying to declare what is genuinity, what is it? So anytime I would as I say, oh, genuinity is this, there would always be this exception that would come in and say, oh, well, what about this, right? So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to talk about the energy of what it feels like to be genuine, in the hope that I can make this sparkly outline around it. In D&D, this is the fairy fire spell to dispel invisibility. And in Swedish, because I was very lucky to get over there, we have svart and svartkonst, and this is elva eld. So yeah, it's super great stuff, man. But yeah, so being genuine is not about a talking or a pushing outward energy. It's definitely not grabby. Because I remember a lot of times when I mentor people, this is actually super common, where they have this this grab energy in their tone of their messages. Can I has job please is what I kind of characterize it. Well, gently, come on now. At the same time, it's also not this internal, especially self-deprecating energy. A lot of times I see something to the equivalent of, I am shit. This is shit. I'll never get a job because it's shit. And it's that is you with your own hurdles that you gotta get over. And don't get me wrong, I too have had to saddle over those hurdles. And you have to do it over and over again because it's how life works. But that has nothing to do with business development. Genuinity is a neutral energy. If you're feeling those sorts of things, if you're feeling zzz, that bright buzzing anxiety feeling, or that cold knot in your stomach, that despair or hopelessness, you gotta kind of make it, you kind of nudge yourself into a more neutral state when you're reaching out, right? I honestly have always felt that it feels like listening to me. It feels like the sound when it feels in the same energy when you're doing sound design. you're listening to the sounds as they come in, and you're making adjustments. Like, and that's why I think that audio professionals can be really good at this, because it has like this empathy of like taking in and very gently projecting out, right? But yeah, I personally can't summon genuinity on command. It's something that I like work up towards. When I'm trying to do like a cold reach out to someone that I don't know, like it takes me a while to kind of get into the right headspace. Especially even over the course of like a week, like good headspace, right? And like right now in this moment, I am performing, right? I have no idea how many people are in chat right now, like, and that's okay. Like, there are situations where you do have to perform and where you have to kind of like fake it in the near term, right? But you need to realize that like you can't sustain that like forever. You gotta have a healthy, slow, sustainable like relationship with business development. And the other thing is specifically with remote networking, specifically going like overseas, that kind of thing. Like for the most part, you only have text. Like sure, you get into a Zoom call with folks now and again, and that's great because you can get so much more visual feedback and like tone and all that stuff. But you can't change like once you send, right? Like I mean, I guess we have edits and stuff like that. But if you stumble over your words, like you can't fix it as easily, right? So the other thing, like for me specifically, I rely an immense amount on idioms and inflection and like weird word cadences and all that stuff. So like it's not my biggest challenge is that like people have a tendency to not understand me, right? Because I wiggle all over the place, right? And hopefully I'm amusing. But like when you have language barrier and that kind of thing, keeping your tone a little bit more even and like a little bit more explicit can be very helpful in communicating. But yeah, so even I like have things that I need to learn. But yeah, so we at least kept some thoughts into how to be genuine, right? How do I be consistent? So when my mentee folks are like finally ready to start like serious cold networking, like really pounding pavement, or virtual pavement though, I generally advise them to do 2 reach outs a week. And there's like a couple reasons for this, but like, yeah, some people end up doing more, some people end up doing less. It is okay to do more. Like, for example, I just came from Nordic Game Con in Malmo. And like I had a ton of follow-ups that I had to do right after, right? And that just makes sense, right? Like it's more of a feeling, right? But like the issue you run into when you're going like way beyond 2 is that you get into this like aggressive, like spammy energy. You start using form letters. You start like not doing the research and like you just start messaging everyone, right? And again, I'm not saying like don't communicate with folks, right? But also like I'm sorry, please do not use AI in your cold messaging. Please do not do it. Like it's hard enough to use your own voice. Like using someone else, like the crowdsourced voices of other people is not going to be the solution. Please get a human to help you if you can't do it yourself. And by the way, there are people who struggle with doing this. So like human. But yeah, the other reason why I feel that 2 a week is really good is that like I have like this like thing where it goes like I have to reach out to all the game developers in Sweden, right? And it's like this big giant mountain that like, oh wow, yo. But 2 a week, like just wait until you see something like a team post something, you see like and like reaching out to Sven, right? Like I don't know, I could probably reach out to Sven, versus like the large like mountain that you're looking at, right? Like the first contact the only other thing I wanted to mention is like try to make your first reach outs more of like questions, or like things that aren't about work. Like the first contact I ever made in 2020, that was overseas, was someone described a design focused audio pipeline. And after Googling it for a bit, like I kind of felt like I knew what he meant, but I wanted to know definitively what did he mean by that. So I reached out and I asked him like, hey, I apologize if this is a really like short, like silly question, but what is a design focused audio pipeline? And he told me, and we like, stayed in touch for 5 years. Like literally just drip drop. I personally feel like you should try and keep your follow-up somewhere between 6 weeks to 6 months. It's just a spectrum. Annual's okay if you've been in like a video call with them, but you have to have had to establish the relationship at some point in a significant degree, right? Because like once you're getting into annual, like you kind of drift apart a little bit. But also, by the way, just in case it wasn't obvious, like certain contexts just drift, and that's cool. Like you can reestablish them, but you have to kind of think of it more like reestablishing the relationship, right? So, but yeah, just like ask them questions, congratulate them on a job. If it's a place that like you admire and you want to work, go congratulate them. Celebrate them, celebrate something cool if you think it is cool, right? Think about like if you were in there, like if you were in the shoes, how would you want to be communicated with, right? Use empathy, right? So, we've talked about like 2, like way more than 2, like all of that stuff, right? What about 0? Okay, because that is the alternative, right? Is 0. There are. First off, I did not do a ton of business development when I was shipping my Maneuver Magic. I regret it like this much, not like this much, but like this much. I probably needed to do like one more talk, and I did kind of, I don't know, I kind of like, I should have like been more in contact with my work friends because they're cool people, right? And like this is part of it, but yeah. So shipping video games, man, it's hard. So the other time when 0 came is unfortunately one of my mentees is going through a ton of crappy life factors. They are massively burnt out at a crappy day job, and my advice to them is to play video games and find a new day job. If your life is in conflict, you need to save your energy and to get in a better frame of mind and do it right. Like be comfortable sacrificing consistency for genuinity, especially in the short term. Like if you're talking like shorter than a 6-month like span, no, life got in the way. It's not a big deal. Just don't lie to yourself. Like you have to put in the work to make meaningful, like establish meaningful relationships with people. It takes time and it takes work, right? So, as I mentioned, I mentor a fair bit, especially with like mentees who are located, like not located like in the jobs they are trying for. So when I do this, like I like to like show them like all my LinkedIn messages, all my email, like all basically my 2 weeks, right? I like to show them like how much I'm doing and like who I'm reaching out to. The biggest thing that comes up a lot of times is like look how concise it is. A lot of times my messages are quite concise and like helping people realize like, yeah, you don't need that giant sausage of a message. That being said, I also do show them my big long form messages because like you aren't sending form letters. Every single message that I send is 100% handcrafted to that person. Like, sure, I'm gonna use like the texting for like, hey, can you please get milk? Like, yeah, I'm gonna just say yes. Like sure, but like I'm talking about like real connections with human people. Like, yeah, all of those have to be handcrafted from you, because you are a person, right? Yeah, person. Okay, so The only other thing that I really like to kind of like show with this is what we call a sales funnel. So say over the course of some weeks, you reach out to 20 people. Only 5 actually like read those messages, just because like they were too busy. They didn't check email, they didn't check DMs, they didn't check LinkedIn. Like whatever the case might be, like yeah, but there's a sizable amount who just aren't gonna respond because of life factors, right? And in our hypothetical example, 2 people didn't really vibrate with your message. I just don't know what to do with that. And I'm like, okay, like there is a certain amount of people who just don't respond because they don't vibe with your message, and that is okay. The of the 3 who are left, right? We've got one will respond that, hey, I'm really sorry, I already have a sound designer, and that's okay. Oh yeah, you did, as long as you did the research, you did your best. Like that happens. Like it like happens all the time. It happens to me. So like the other one is like, oh hey, we would love a sound designer. We unfortunately have no money, right? And it, like if you're looking for a paid gig, like that's obviously not a fit, right? The only little piece of advice I did want to throw out, pay it forward, so to speak. The best piece of advice I ever received in any talk was from Ryan Ike. He's a composer here locally, and he said, you don't always have to work for money, but never work for free. But anyways, so completely unrelated to my talk, but Ryan Ike. So right. So all right. So we've done like one person was like, I already have a sound designer. I have no money. One person might reach out and say, hey, like I actually haven't thought about sound yet. Can we talk? That kind of it exemplifies a theoretical like funnel that, like for all your efforts, a certain number of them are going to funnel down into a yes, right? The other thing I like to show with my responses is that I'm showing that I'm growing relationships over time. Like I said, like some of my relationships are years old. Like one of the oldest relationships I have is I was at a game jam when we did it physically back in the day, and like I just managed to meet some random person. I happened to get his business card because at the time, like we did that. And like I just drip dropped because I really wanted to, like he eventually became like a studio director for a small team locally. Oh man, it was exciting. And by the time that I was going to, like it was about the right time, like 6 months to like reach back out to him. And this was probably like the 12th or 13th time that we had a connection. He reached out to me and was like, hey, I was hoping I could get some creature sounds. And I was like, hey, I'm really sorry, but I'm working at Microsoft on Altspace right now. Here are 3 people that would be good for that. So like, my point is that like, you need to realize that this is going to take, this is going to take a while, right? At least if you're doing it for reals. And so one thing, like I kind of wanted to talk about as well was like, as I was like teaching this, I started to realize that there was this pattern that would start to emerge when I was, especially in LinkedIn, when I was like, oh yeah, you should never reach out. You should never reach out with just a question or like, sorry, you should never reach out with like, hey, I'm a sound designer. Do you need sound? And I don't know. I think I would I suddenly realized I wasn't walking the walk because I went into my LinkedIn message and like 20% of them was just me just like immediately just going for it, right? And I was trying to figure out like, why do I do this? I'm not walking the walk, and like I'm seeing myself like, no, that was 100% legitimate of like me going out and directly just immediately going for it. And I realized there are two situations where you should go direct. And the first one is when the company is actively, explicitly looking for help. And you are like an 80% fit. Like, you can't, like, you've never released a game trying to go for like an audio directorship. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're talking like 80% qualified. Yep, I've worked in WISE and FMOD and like, okay, all of these things. You want guns? I've worked on guns. Okay, cool. Right? So like 80% fit, right? So what happened, I have a story about this one. So I was kind of going through some burnout at HTC. It was like 2022-ish. There's a sound designer role that popped up at Guild Wars. And I actually really, really connected up with the audio director at the time, Drew. And so I was just like, okay, finally I found a job where I like, dude, I'm gonna get an interview out of this one. Like Drew is a work friend, right? And so I applied and I got auto rejected. And I took it personal. Like I'm not gonna lie, I took it personal. I took it way too personally. And so what happened is that I about 4 months later, like after they closed it and they found their person, which is great. I mean, it was amazing. I kind of reached out and I was like, hey Drew, can we go for coffee? And he's like, yeah, let's go for coffee. And I sort of ambushed him and I feel super bad about it. But I was like, hey, so like I applied for that position and all that stuff. And like you found your person, like it's totally cool. Like I need to know, man. Like I'm over here thinking that I'm not good enough for this industry. And can you just tell me why? And it was so funny. He was really surprised because he was like, I never saw your resume. And he told me something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And that was, the next time that happens, I don't want you to email me. I want you to text me on my personal cell phone that you are interested in talking. And it struck me for the first time that when you have to believe that you have a fit, because that you are a fit for the role, you have to believe it. You have to believe that there is a Drew out there who is tearing their hair out, trying to find you. You have to believe that. And if you're having trouble, believe that, work on that. But you need to realize that you have what it takes to make that game better. You have what it takes to help that person. And that is what you are doing when you reach out directly. Is you are helping them through the decision-making process to find the help that they are looking for, right? That is what you are doing. All right, so the second option, because there were other ones. There are situations where, like, especially now because I'm unemployed, right? So when I truly think that I would be a fit, and I see no other factors that would indicate that they currently have help, right? So like it can get sticky if you aren't doing the research, if you're just reaching out to every single like place that you see, right? But if you are shaped in a certain way and you're like, oh yeah, I could do this game. I could do this game. Like for example, I'm super confident about any game that has like magic sounds. Like yeah, like I've got a big game on my back. This is like, I can do magic, right? So like, and again, do your research, try and find places that again, you do not believe in good faith that they have anything that they need help, and reach out to them. It's all good. You're going to be wrong occasionally, and that's fine. So we have a question. So I'm going to like over there. Let's do the spotlight. Oh shoot. Oh God. I'm so sorry. Not really a question, but I really wanted to say that my advice to find people about who ask about their projects and other find groups and learn things about 3D modeling, programming, and maybe art for game dev. Go into their chat and give some feedback if someone asks, and then mention that you are a sound designer. People can find if they search in the chat for the word. Yeah, I've never done it that way, but hey, I'm down. I will say that a big part of this networking thing, I would completely agree that it's about the other disciplines, right? I'm not gonna lie. Most of my jobs have come like in-house positions have almost exclusively come from audio people. Like I'm going through. Okay, first one was an audio person. The second. Okay, so I did apply once. HTC, the first time, the internship, that one was cold. I just applied and I got in. All the others though were from my audio connections. But again, these are in-house. right? I haven't done like a ton of freelance. So I'm more new to that. But yeah. So, all right, we're gonna go back. So, but yeah, so do the research. I know that there's probably someone in the audience who's like, oh my God, that sounds like a ton of time, right? And like, here's the thing, like it is, right? It's a lot of time to go and research each individual person that you're reaching out and cultivate a custom message to send to them. Yeah, it is. But the thing is, when you're doing like overseas networking, you start to like see the relationships of people by doing that. For Sweden specifically, like as I started to do this, I started to see how like I started to see like little team clusters around specific areas, and eventually I figured out they have like government sponsored like incubators that like sponsor like a small team for like a short time to make a game. And I could see where those like small little incubators filter into the larger teams, and like how the people kind of migrate between the larger teams in Sweden. So like, yeah, it doesn't pay off immediately, but there are some serious advantages to like taking. And again, we're doing this. We ain't doing this like 40 hours a week every day, right? We're doing it to slowly over time like grow our portfolio of connections and understanding of where we're going, right? The only other thing, like the final like notes I have is like when you're being direct, you need to realize that like sending messages to the top 10 like firms, the top 10 like big names, like for example, like in America it's going to be like Respawn, Sony Santa Monica, like all the gigantic teams. By googling the audio director there and sending them a message, it doesn't matter how good your message is, you're going to be number 50 on any given day, right? And like even a good message is going to probably annoy someone who's overtaxed, someone who gets like 50 messages a day. The other thing is like, I'm sorry, like reach out to your peer level people. I think it's so weird how people like reach out like, oh, just trying to go after the audio director, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter if that's the only person you're going after, your energy will start to get gimme, right? Gimme, right? No. Like you're trying to foster connections, right? So like, why not just go after someone like, okay, if you're newer, right? And I'm not talking to folks who are decent in, but like, if you are new, why don't you think about talking to like a peer, right? Who just got their first audio job. They're give them 3 months just to settle in so they know where the bathroom is, right? But like, ask them like, how did they get their job? How are they feeling in it? Like, how's it going? All that stuff. Like that, like, sure, they haven't got anything to give you, but like theoretically, you want to be a sound designer or like, you want to be an audio professional in games in 8 years or 12 years. So sure, they're not going to be immediately able to open a door now, but like, you don't know where they're going, right? Like, and that's the thing is that this is long-term play, and you'd be surprised what kind of doors you can open when you're connecting with people before they were the big person, right? All right, so we got another question, so we're gonna go. So let's go here. What is your experience looking for freelance work coming from an in-house background? I mean, so you have to realize that, like, well, okay. So immediately in the last 2 months, 3 months, I think we're at 3 months. Yeah, I think we're at 3 months. So like a little bit of this has been like decompressing from mom, right? So it's okay that like my experience has not been I don't know, profitable. It's been good because I feel that for the first time, like when you're in production with games, like you have to just crank. Like you can't like diddle or sorry, that might be a bad word in Britain. I apologize. You can't just like dawdle around. Just like explore, right? So like it has been very nice to kind of take more of my own time and just sort of to go with it. I will say I do prefer in-house because it's just easier, like to just like not be distracted by 100,000 things, because it is like being unemployed and I wouldn't say freelancing is unemployed, but they're similar. There's a lot of little things that require attention at all times. Whereas like when you're in house, you have one sausage, and you gotta get into flow. You gotta do your thing, and it's hard and all that stuff. But it is theoretically there's far less distraction because it's like shit, the video game, right? But yeah, other than that, I will say it's been a little cold out here. Do you feel that like going and trying to live and work in Sweden right now is a good time? But yeah, sorry. I hope that answers your question. So there is another question, but we're gonna keep on going. So all right. So cross-cultural communication. So cross-cultural communication can be really tough. It's important to do your research and get as educated as you can to like kind of get that like cultural quirks of the place you want to go to. I felt that this was important to do before launching like serious networking. I worry about what this says about me, but I am going to throw out a small tip. One of the things when I did is over the course of like I'm not joking, like 8 years. When I started to figure out what all the Swedish firms were, I did have a tendency to send like LinkedIn connections to a bunch of people. I didn't send a message. All I did was just connect on LinkedIn. And the idea is that like maybe I'm gonna do this like for serious one day, right? And having an established like just an email channel that theoretically they're gonna look at, I don't know. It was really nice. And like I said, I try not to do it with harm. Like try and just like connect with people in a genuine way and just like, hey, do you want to connect with me? Oh yes, you press the yes button. Oh yay. Like great. So but anyway, so cross-cultural communication. I felt it was important to like research and all those cultural quirks before launching into serious networking. The best resource for this was that I've ever had has always been my Swedish teachers. I highly recommend if you're going to a place where the language is different, look into like getting a teacher from the area. Currently, I've had 3, and then, to be honest, only one of them was actually like born and raised Swedish. But at the same time, like I've got the one advantage of having an American who like has spent extensive time in Sweden is that culturally they can explain a lot more things from an American perspective, right? But yeah, this is as much language instruction as cultural instruction. So like I said, it's super helpful. I don't know what I would do if I was like, England to here. Canada, unfortunately, is fairly similar to us, so I don't know about that. But yeah, I don't know. We are watch loads of YouTube. Yeah, so I mean, as a weird twist of fate, I actually was an international business major in college, and there was this one cool framework that we had in intercultural communication, and it was called Hofstede's Cultural Dimensions. And so, like I said, this is social science, but like I want to, so it's like don't use it as like hard labels or like this is this or that is that, right? Like it's more of a watercolor kind of science. But yeah, so the 3 dimensions I wanted to talk about was power distance, individualism versus collectivism, and uncertainty avoidance. So power distance. Power distance is this idea of communicating from like different statuses of people, right? So like picture this. You are a junior programmer at an American tech startup, and you see something that can save the company $1 million. And like in America, you just saddle up to the CEO, who is probably wearing sweatpants right next to you, and like tell him, like, or tell them, like, hey, like, this is how you can save $1 million. Okay. But like, for example, like I could contact the CEO of Sparky Vance. I still can because he's a cool dude. There's like a power distance in the sense of like, dude, he owns the company. Like, but it's not like this gigantic gap, right? There's not like this huge power distance, right? Whereas if you contrast this to, like, say, Japan, who is like characterized as having a little bit of a higher power distance, right? You would go through the proper channels. Like, you would go to your boss, who would go to his boss, until you, right. So, right, power distance, and of course, there's always exceptions and ways that people like practice their own culture. So try not to like generalize too much, but like use your best judgment. It's always a good thing to like observe. So while currently I feel Swedes run similar-ish to American power distance, they are absolutely different when it comes to individualism versus collectivism. In Sweden, there's this sense of like committee and harmony in committee. I knew someone who had worked at Avalanche, and she was not a Swede. And she talked about how like it was kind of frustrating for her that they would want to like solve design problems by committee before going out, implementing and making them in the game. Where she was like, yo, we just need to get in there. We just need to build something, and then we can change it afterwards. It's like if we're not in the right zone, we'll just change it. But again, like there's an intense desire for there to be harmony and cohesion in committee and in decision making processes. But like again, every studio is different. Like, for example, Joseph Perez at He's Light Studios. I saw his talk at Nordic Game Con like a couple weeks ago, and he has a much more like auteur style of management where he is the single decision making like process for like the narrative part of the game, right? And he was talking like it was to the point where the Swedish interviewer was like, "Oh, so you do not follow like the Swedish like collectivistic like committee style of decision making?" He's like, "Nah." Like so what I'm saying is like these things inform like our understanding of culture, but they are not like they are not rules in that sense, right? So lastly, we have uncertainty avoidance, and like I thought this was the coolest in college. So it loosely is dealing with how you culturally handle risk and how you handle like the uncertainty of the future. So in China, like let's characterize them as kind of being somewhat high uncertainty avoidance. Like, for example, in their education, like the teacher's word is law. Like teacher is always like the single source of truth, right? They're instructed to seek the right answers for the test, right? There are discrete right and there is wrong, right? Whereas like at least before No Child Left Behind here in America, you might get something like an open-ended like a discussion in class about the text, like a text kind of book kind of thing. You might see something where like there's an open-ended essay as an assignment. That kind of thing is more on one side of the dimension, right? And again, like I feel that culture is practiced in a lot of different ways, right? But the thing I thought was most cool about it is that he made a note that with power distance and all the other dimensions that you got over there, I only went over the first three, like you can kind of just communicate through it. Like if you have a problem, like with power, like for example, me as an American, if I'm wrong about like Sweden and they actually have a higher power distance than I actually at least perceive at this moment, say I waddle in and I talk to the wrong level of person and I make an etiquette like faux pas, right? I can communicate, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm an American. Like I had no idea that was impolite, right? With uncertainty avoidance, it is the only dimension that Hofstede kind of found in his research that people couldn't just communicate through. That uncertainty avoidance was the one thing that people would kind of clunch around and not be willing to kind of meet folks in the middle, or at least like cast them off as like, I mean, Megan's an American. What are we gonna do? Like, another thing is like, as an American, I have extremely high affect. So like, I have like smiles and like all of the gesticulation and all that stuff, rather than the Swedish folks who are very very reserved, that kind of thing. So yeah. All right, let's do some questions. All right, so we got this one. For someone applying outside of their country of residence, what is something, in your opinion, that's going to make them stand out from local candidates? What would make them invest in a foreign employee when there are more than 100 folks applying from the country of cost home staff? Oh, well, cost thing, like, you need to realize that like you are going to the cost. So there should be no price difference. Like, you need to realize that if you, like, for example, the cost of living difference, the cost of living difference and the salary amount is significantly less in Sweden. And I absolutely am not going to get an American wage out there. Like, no, like I am going to get a Sweden level wage. So I am comfortable with making that decision for myself, my family, all of that stuff. But like, there is no way I am getting an American wage. It would be way too much. It would be 3 times as much, easily. For the outside of the country of residence, that is where the networking applies. Because you have to be on shortlist. You have to be known to the people on the team. That is how you stand out. Is because you have networked with them for 5 years. They know who you are. They are virtually like a friend to you, right? And they are willing to interview you because you are as good as any candidate locally. You are the same price, and I don't know, the social factor is gone. Like, you know who that person is. I don't know if I'm going to be successful with it. We're still in process. I have not made it, but it is the hardest part of this journey. Yeah. So thank you for the question. All right, we're gonna pop over to another one, and then there we go. We'll get one more, and then I think we'll go farther. I kind of don't understand why it's such a big deal when beginner reach out to a person who has power to at least refer to them. Oh, and I went, okay. It's like, yeah, I'm looking for a job in this field, and I put a lot of my time. I'm not begging for a job. I'm simply introducing myself. If you're not interested, it's okay. It's like, what's the big deal? Okay, but you have to realize, like, this is culture, right? In Japan, like, so I'm not trying to go to Japan, but I have absolutely, like, studied it. One of my mentees is, like, hell-bent on going to Japan, like, working at Nintendo, like, you do not reach out directly. It is a social, like, it is a social faux pas to reach out directly. Additionally, like, it would negatively, like, the opinion of the person, of the Japanese counterpart on the other side, would have a negative opinion that you do not understand our culture. You have not put in the work to understand how to work at this company. How dare you, right? And again, like, I'm making it like a little hyperbolic, right? Like, each person is individual, but at the same time, like, I would suggest that you come from a place that has low power distance. We need to respect cultures who have high, and work at the place at the correct like way that they wish to work in order to be polite and communicate well and all that stuff. And at the very end of the day, like I said, like, I truly do believe that I am a bull in a china shop is the English idiom of, like, I am kind of stumbling around here, and hopefully the people who I'm stumbling into are kind, understand, like, this is bad etiquette, but like, this person just doesn't understand. Educate and allow them into the fold. So yeah. All right, let's see, we got like 10 more minutes. All right, we're gonna try and keep going, because I think this is the last slide, so we'll try and cover it quick. So Yeah, when I made the decision that I have two big career goals. Two. I have one is that I want to work at Valve Software, who's locally here. The other one is that I want to live and work in Sweden. And when I made these decisions, I hadn't recorded a sound yet. I hadn't even opened Reaper for the first time. Like when I say that it was so far off, like it was off the map. And you know, in video games where you have like, you know, again, like a fog of war mechanic, like you couldn't even see it on the map. Like it was in the fog of war, right? So how do you work on something that is so far off, like way far off? Like, so I have kind of three general phases. The first phase is the nurture phase. When you have this idea that you want to do something incredible, like big and incredible, like go let yourself sit with that for a bit. Indulge in the fantasy a little bit. Like let it do its thing. Cause like I feel that people get like, oh, I have to start working towards my goal, right? No, just let it sit there. It will eventually, like you'll spark an idea of like, oh my god, I could do that, right? For me, my first like centimeter, my first thing I did was I shipped a video game that was a VR game. Because again, it was to get to Valve. And I had a reel, and I didn't even have a website, but it's effectively like you have your tutorial sword and your spell slot unlocked, and I was excited. I had done my first thing. After that part, one other thing, like I did want to, so to think about like living with the fantasy, like it's okay to live with the fantasy for a bit. Like my fantasy for Sweden was, I'm gonna be having this like cute little fika in Stockholm, and like it's gonna be summer, and I'm gonna be with my coworker in Södermalm, and we're gonna be working because I work at Avalanche, working on Medvacs too. Like like, but you need to indulge that. You need to indulge the fantasy and like how you want it to be, right? Like don't lie to yourself that it is a fantasy, but like like allow yourself to like be with it. So yeah. But yeah, so you've done one thing. Like for Sweden, it was like I put together like kind of a list of like places that like I could work, right? I personally felt like I had to probably go to one of the larger firms because again, sponsoring a visa, it isn't zero amount of work, but it is more than zero. So yeah. After you get to like I've done something, right? You're in the goopy part. You're in the goopy part where like you have to kind of just try stuff. There's no GPS in the fog of war, right? There's no progress bar in this part. You simply are just growing. I remember distinctly just being kind of frustrated with my mentors. So I'd be like, oh my God, they just told me you're doing everything right. And it's like, oh my God. But that is helpful because it helps with craziness. You at least know that the light is green. You don't know where the progress bar on landing is, but you do know the light is green, right? And it's hard. The other thing is that you do need to realize there are certain things that like in video games that you don't have access to. Like I've been working with this like Rolly thing. I've never been able to really master software since. I just like I go and I do cool things, but I can't choose to do cool things. Like it just kind of happens, right? And now that I got the Rolly though, I feel like I've effectively had like snowshoes. I'm not good enough that I'm over, software synth mountain range. But like I have what it takes to finally climb the mountain a little bit, and like that's a big part of this journey is realizing that there are certain parts where you just can't at the time, but you will be able to later, right? the final part is that at some point there's going to be a reality check. For me, like, this was Nordic Game Con. I loved it. It was so great to go there. But oh my goodness gracious, is it small? It is tiny. Oh my god, you guys have no idea how big America is. I'm sorry. It is huge. Going to Stockholm, going to Malmo, they're just miniature in relationship. And oh, cold. Like, we hit perfect weather, and I was like, ooh, this is a bit cool. Like, just in relationship, and just realizing, yep, it's gonna be cold. And you know, there's part of this journey when you hit reality check. There's a decision you kind of gotta make a little bit with, like, am I gonna keep up with this, or am I gonna let it die? And so with Valve specifically, I have not given up on Valve, but I have grown into my own artistry, my own abilities, my own strengths, my own moxie, and I might not be a fit for Valve software. But that dream made me what I am. It has given me everything that I am today. And sometimes that's all dreams can do. Sometimes that's all they can give to you. And yeah. So one more thing, talk. Like, in Sweden, you always say talk. You always say, which is thank you. Like you say talk for little things, for many things. You can say talk. I loved how they just love to repeat words. It's so great. But yeah, so we're gonna spot for questions for a few more minutes, and then we're gonna bounce. All right, here we go. All right, so we got, if you are starting in a country or region where there's not a big industry, would you advise to move to hotspots, maybe just temporarily? I personally think that, yeah, no. One of the earlier parts of my Swedish journey, I was like, do they even have game studios? And I suddenly realized that Avalanche was based in Sweden. And I was like, oh wow, I had no idea. Like, the Mad Max studio is based in Sweden. That's so cool. So like, right. But yeah, you need to figure out whether or not the place that you are going to has places that can employ you, and also multiple. I interviewed with Lego out of Billund in Denmark. And like, dude, they are the only person that like is an employer there. Don't get me wrong, if it had been a fit, I probably would have gone, because like, I put all my eggs into Sweden, but close. But yeah, luckily it wasn't a fit. But like, that is a serious concern that you need to make sure there's a healthy industry of like multiple places, especially in audio, because like, dude, we flit from like project to project all the time, and you need to make sure there's like, I don't know, I don't want to put like a number, but like 15. Like, you need to make sure that there is a hot spot of activity and that kind of thing. So yeah. Let's do this one. All right. Do you have tips for someone like me, sound editor for film linear, who's trying to apply to broad? Ooh. Worked in a nice variety of feature films and series. I have 8 years of experience, nice show reels, hardly find a job in post-production. So it's time to go with supersizing sound and sending them show reels. The most likely looking for my work with really good feedback, but I often feel it stops there, saying that it's not ready, don't really have work for opportunity to suggest, maybe reach out when they need a hand. Do you have any thoughts? As long as you're not trying to get into games. Games are hurting. This is not a good time to be pushing into games from film, because you have two significant like skill things that you're doing there, right? If you are trying to do films elsewhere, no, really, my jam. Yeah. So you're doing the networking, right? You've got the networking there. At least I see it. So yeah, I feel bad because I probably have to just greenlight you on this one. Like, as long as you are doing the work, like reaching out to folks, checking in with them, seeing how they're doing, like all of that's time. It is like the only thing I can recommend is just keep doing it. Yeah. Sorry. I really wish I had something better. I'm worried that like I'm a little surprised because like, I don't know, maybe I just have, again, American productions who are very comfortable going to like like other locations. But like, I'm surprised that films wouldn't be just way more comfortable with taking like out of like, sure, it's expensive, but like a lot of like filming on location is like going to the location, right? So that like I could just see where you could actually network in person a lot more. But then again, like I could also see, well, the sound people just stay in their booth a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe try another location recording. Yeah, I'm so sorry. But anyway, thanks guys.